My name is Amelia, and 12 years ago, my own family erased me. They didn't just cut contact, they cut me out. No cause, no holidays, no explanation, just silence. Then, one rainy Thursday morning, an envelope appeared in my mailbox, heavy, cream-colored, expensive. My name, Amelia Cross, written in the handwriting I hadn't seen since I was 21. It was my mother's. I recognized it instantly. Even without her name, the ink screamed Vivian Cross, a woman who didn't write letters unless she was orchestrating something. Inside, the card shimmered with gold trim. Charlotte Cross and Desmond Hale request your presence at their wedding. Charlotte, my sister, if I can still call her that. 12 years of exile, and suddenly I'm invited to her wedding? At the Rosemont Pavilion, a venue reserved for DC's elite. Crystal chandeliers, $800 per plate, a waiting list just to breathe the same air as senators and CEOs. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't kindness. It was bait. Because Desmond Hale, that name twisted my stomach. He wasn't a stranger. Years ago, I stood in a corporate boardroom, pitching our startup's health tech solution. I was the youngest in the room. Desmond glanced at me like I was a curiosity, not a professional. He said, "Impressive for someone your age." Translation, "You're too young and too female." Now he's marrying my sister? Coincidence? No. My family doesn't do coincidence. This was designed, scripted, calculated. They didn't expect me to show up. They expected me to feel small again. But the girl they cast out with a thrift store suitcase and a shattered spirit? She doesn't exist anymore? I stood at the window of my apartment, staring out at the Capitol's skyline. Somewhere across town, the Rosemont glistened like a lie, shiny and soulless. For years I tried to forget them. Now they want me to come back just long enough to pose for pictures and stay silent while they toast to family. But I'm not here for reconciliation or revenge. I'm here for reckoning. I opened my closet and pulled out the dress. Sleek, black, not elegant, unyielding. It didn't whisper wedding guest. It roared, warrior. My phone buzzed. It was Ethan, my husband. "You okay?" I replied, "I'm going. Are you sure?" "It's time." I looked in the mirror. Poised, powerful, unforgiving. This wasn't about a seat at their table. I was going to flip the damn table. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Right. I sat in my home office that night, the wedding invitation lying like a snake on my desk. Rain tapped on the windows as I opened my old laptop, one I hadn't touched in years. Folder name, Cross Family, Confidential. Inside were files I had sworn to never open again. Screenshots of anonymous blog posts. Transcripts that never added up. The scholarship I lost. The research she miraculously produced a week after visiting my apartment. Charlotte had stolen more than my voice. She stole my future. I remembered the night she came by unannounced, back in college. I was pulling an all-nighter, finishing my thesis on nutritional access in underserved communities. 8 months of work, real interviews, real data, real struggle. I told her I think this could actually win that Women in Science Fellowship. She smiled, said, "You've really outdone yourself." A week later, my research folder vanished. No backup, no trail. I submitted a half-done version from months prior. It bombed. Charlotte won the fellowship. At the gala, they announced her name. My parents clapped from the front row. Someone behind me whispered, "She's just more talented, I guess." And I smiled through the humiliation, swallowed my truth, watched her wave, wearing my work like it was her skin. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? To them, I was the difficult daughter, the one who lied about a necklace at 16, the one who always needed attention. But they didn't see the hours I worked at dawn, the shelves I stocked at midnight, the ramen I ate so I could buy textbooks. I thought time would heal it, that success would silence the ghosts. But ghosts don't stay buried when your past sends you an RSVP. So I returned to those files, not to relive the pain, but to document the pattern. Charlotte hadn't gotten lucky. She'd gotten help. From my mother. Every forged transcript, every silent dismissal, every door that closed in my face while one magically opened for her, it was all connected. And it wasn't just her. It was Vivian, the strategist. She never yelled, she managed. She didn't punish, she erased. When I stumbled at a charity gala speech at 14, she didn't correct me, she crushed me. "You embarrassed us," she whispered as the cameras flashed. Her smile was perfect. Her grip on my arm left bruises. That was the moment I stopped performing for her. But a part of me still hoped she'd see me. That's the cruelest part of trauma, when you stop expecting love but still ache for approval. No more. I added to the folder her quotes recycled in Charlotte's interviews, school records that didn't align, a payment receipt from a suspended clinic. This wasn't nostalgia. This was evidence. Because this time, I wasn't showing up unarmed. The next morning, I was sipping my coffee when a LinkedIn notification lit up my screen. Congratulations to Charlotte Cross for her groundbreaking wellness research featured in the Women in Medicine spotlight. My stomach turned cold. I clicked. The headline, the summary, the methodology, all of it was mine. Verbatim, she'd stolen not just my past, but now my career. There she was, smiling in a photo next to the article, the kind of smile that said, "Nothing's ever gone wrong in my life." I whispered, "You've got to be kidding me." But she wasn't. Charlotte never had to be clever when she had Vivian behind her, scripting every move. I opened the file I had labeled, "If She Ever Tries Again." I added the article. I wasn't angry, I was awake. Because this wasn't just about a stolen thesis or a missed scholarship anymore. This was a pattern, a design, a blueprint of deceit. That night, I pulled out a manila folder already thick with receipts, photos of her at conferences using my charts, archived comments from the anonymous blog that ruined my reputation, a revised transcript submitted to a medical board that didn't match any university curriculum. And then came the final piece. A white envelope, no return address, no handwriting I recognized. Inside, a DNA report. At first I skimmed it, then I stopped. Subject, Amelia Cross. Maternal sample, Vivian Cross. Result, inconclusive. My heart nearly stopped. It was a lie, but not a rumor, not a whisper. A clinical, calculated lie. I remembered the timing. 6 months after this report was dated, I was removed from my grandfather's will. No explanation, just erased. Vivian hadn't just cut me off emotionally. She'd manufactured a medical lie to write me out legally. $5,000 to a now defunct lab. Shell company, suspended license. Everything traced back to her. "You weren't just disinherited," Ethan said softly behind me. "She tried to delete you from history." My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from clarity. They hadn't just abandoned me. They'd used me for identity shielding, for financial schemes, for optics. I wasn't a daughter to them. I was a tool. And now I was taking it all back. No revenge, just the truth, collected, curated, bulletproof. I composed a message to a journalist I once helped expose a corrupt supplement chain. Subject line regarding the Cross family internal discrepancies. I didn't ask her to publish. Not yet. I just needed someone outside the blast zone to hold the truth. Because the one thing my mother never taught me was that silence, when sharpened, can become a weapon. Let them host their wedding. Let them toast with their crystal flutes. But I'd be the one holding the detonator. And this time the explosion wouldn't leave me in pieces. The Rosemont Pavilion glistened like a lie carved in marble. From the moment I stepped through its glass doors, heels clicking across polished floors, I felt the shift in the air, like the universe itself was holding its breath. Heads turned. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Champagne flutes froze mid-air. I didn't wear soft pastels like the others. I wore navy silk, backless, bold, unapologetic. I didn't come to blend in. I came to be seen. My mother, Vivian, stood near the far table, her hand trembling ever so slightly around her wine stem. Her face didn't crack, but her eyes screamed. She wasn't supposed to come. Charlotte, perched center stage like a queen, looked up. Her smile strained at the corners. Cracks appeared. Desmond at her side went rigid, like a ghost from a boardroom past had just stepped out of his worst memory. I walked slowly, letting every click of my heels echo louder than the whispers. I reached my table. Didn't sit. Vivian's voice rang out, sharp and tight. "Amelia, this is neither the time nor the place." But I didn't flinch. I stepped forward and said, voice calm as ice, "Then you shouldn't have invited me." A toast was beginning, Charlotte's best friend, tipsy and teary-eyed, rambling about love and fate. I waited. Let her finish. Polite applause scattered across the room like falling leaves. I raised my glass. "To truth," I said, "and those who fake it." The air stilled. Even the string quartet faltered. I turned to Charlotte. "Where exactly did you earn your MD?" I asked, voice smooth as velvet, sharp as a scalpel. She blinked. What are you talking about?" I pulled a folded document from my clutch and handed it to Desmond. "Because this transcript you submitted to the health board, it doesn't match any accredited program's curriculum. The capstone? Missing. GPA? Inflated." Desmond's jaw clenched as he scanned the paper. He looked up. "Is this true?" Charlotte opened her mouth, then closed it. She couldn't speak. Vivian stood again. "Enough of this." I cut her off. "No, Mother. Enough of you. You forged a DNA test to remove me from the family will." Gasps swept the room like a gust of wind. "I didn't come here for drama," I continued. "I came to reclaim my name, and I brought receipts." Desmond dropped the papers onto the table and stepped back. "I defended you," he said to Charlotte. "To everyone." She reached for him. "Desmond, please." He backed away. "She didn't ruin this," he said, motioning to me. "You did." And just like that, he walked out. No one followed him. No one followed her. Charlotte stood alone in a ballroom filled with frozen smiles and fading alliances. I didn't stay for cake. I walked out into the night air, cool against my skin, heart steady. Behind me, the chandeliers flickered. Inside, the truth had detonated. And this time, I wasn't the one left in ruins. I didn't run. I didn't hide. I just walked, calm, deliberate, free, out of that gilded ballroom. But inside, the dominoes had only just begun to fall. By sunrise, my inbox lit up again. No subject, no name, one sentence. "You deserve to know what really happened during Charlotte's suspension." I froze. Attached was a redacted hospital incident report dated 2017. Patient male 17. Diagnosis, mild asthma. Outcome, induced coma due to incorrect dosage of epinephrine. Attending physician, Dr. Charlotte Cross. Dismissed, no charges. No accountability. Just a quiet sweep under a very expensive rug. And below it, one more message. She wasn't supposed to be on the pediatric floor. They pulled strings. I couldn't say anything, but maybe you can now. I stared at the screen, my hand trembling, but not from fear, from purpose. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about every patient who trusted her, every board member who turned a blind eye, every lie stitched into her lab coat. I saved the files, encrypted them, then moved fast. By noon, the incident report hit the inboxes of 3 independent watchdog blogs. No signature, no fanfare. Just the truth. By that evening, Twitter was on fire. Bill Dr. Charlotte Cross removed from pediatric hospital site amid resurfaced scandal. Medical cover-up from 2017 comes to light. Screenshots, comments, hashtags. And Charlotte vanished. Her profile disappeared, her name scrubbed. Even her smiling face on the hospital's homepage was replaced by a 404 error. I wasn't done. I sent another email, this one to a medical residency director. Would you like to explain how your star resident was reinstated after a pediatric malpractice case with long-term trauma? I attached the files, no threats, just accountability. The silence was louder than any denial. By the next morning, an internal audit was confirmed. Licensing board meetings were scheduled. Then came the knock. Not gentle, not uncertain. It was Vivian. Her fist slammed against my door like the world owed her a favor. I opened it, said nothing, just stepped aside. "You've gone too far," she hissed. "This was your sister's wedding week." "No," I replied, "this is accountability week. You're destroying her life. She put a child in a coma, and you covered it up?" Her voice cracked. "You don't understand the pressure. No, you don't get to twist this into some poor little queen story. You buried me for years, forged a DNA test, erased me from my grandfather's will. You made me invisible, and now you're angry that I made myself seen?" Behind her, my father, Gregory, stood in the hallway, silent, not defending, not reacting, just stunned. "You always wanted to be the murder," she snapped. "No," I said, walking to the door and holding it wide. "I just wanted to be free." She didn't move, but she knew she had lost. Finally, with no words left to weaponize, she left. And this time, the silence that followed, it was mine. Not to carry, but to savor. It wasn't rage that moved me now. It wasn't even grief. It was clarity. Pure, sharp, and undiluted. That night, Ethan placed a quiet file on my desk. No dramatic cover. No red stamps. Just one word on the label. Audit findings. Inside, wire transfers, equipment invoices, charitable donations, all tagged under a name I hadn't used in over a decade. Amelia Clay. 4 shell companies. 12 years of false tax returns. Consulting fees I never received. Refunds I never cashed. One started when I was 19, broke, living in a basement with 2 roommates and a mold problem. $42,000 for medical consulting. Filed under my name. While I was surviving on dollar store ramen. "They didn't just erase you," Ethan said. "They exploited you." I couldn't speak, not at first. There's a difference between abandonment and exploitation. One leaves you in tears, the other leaves you gutted, hollowed out by people who should have protected you. I didn't cry. I moved, because I had everything I needed. The Moore Foundation Gala was invite only. Black tie, press everywhere, the perfect photo op for the elite. I didn't have an invitation. I didn't need one. I slipped in through the side entrance, black dress, hairpinned, USB drive in hand. Gregory was mid-speech, thanking donors for believing in our family mission when I walked onto the stage. He paused, blinked. Recognition hit his face like a slap. Vivian froze, champagne mid-sip. Charlotte flinched. I didn't smile. I didn't raise my voice. I held the mic like it belonged to me, because tonight it did. Before you donate, I began, you might want to know where your money's been going. I handed the USB to the AV tech. Seconds later, every screen in the ballroom lit up. Bank records, tax filings, fake consulting invoices, all under my stolen identity. Silence, then whispers, then gasped. One file read, Amelia Clay Medical Consultant. Another, signed by G. Cross. Gregory lunged for the mic. This is a mistake. These documents, this is clearly doctored. But a voice from the crowd cut him off. No, they're not. Ethan stepped forward. Suit crisp, eyes locked. Our firm submitted the originals to the IRS and the State Attorney General. Vivian's mouth tightened. Charlotte reached for her. But something was different this time. Charlotte pulled away. How could you drag me into this? She hissed at her mother. And just like that, the image shattered. The Moore family, once polished and perfect, collapsed in a ballroom of donors, press, and legacy names. No one cheered. No one clapped. They just watched. I stood there, calm, unflinching, steady as stone. They had the money, the influence, the lies. But I had the truth, and it was louder than all of them. I didn't wait for the fallout. I didn't linger for applause. I walked outside, heels clicking against the marble one last time. The air was cold, but it was clean, and for the first time in years, I could breathe. 2 weeks passed. No headlines, no lawsuits, no threats, just peace. Not the eerie kind that comes after a storm, not the numb silence that feels like waiting for the next disaster. This was stillness, gentle, earned. The sunlight poured through my bedroom window like a quiet apology from the universe. I padded barefoot to the balcony, coffee in hand, wrapped in a robe that wasn't silk or fancy, just mine. The city below moved on, but for once I didn't feel like I had to run with it. No messages from Vivian. Not even a burner text from Charlotte. Not that I expected one. Except one. From Desmond. Just 2 words. I'm sorry. I stared at the screen and slowly typed back. I believe you, but I don't need anything from you anymore. Because that's what healing had become. Not a dramatic moment. Not a tear girl, but a choice. To not need closure. To not wait for an apology that will never come. To stop trying to be understood by people who never really wanted to know you in the first place. Gregory's medical license was suspended. Vivian withdrew from every board. Charlotte left the city under a cloud of silence, probably hoping anonymity could cleanse what truth had uncovered. I wasn't watching to gloat. I wasn't keeping score. I was simply witnessing, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is see. Without flinching, without reacting, without saving anyone from the consequences they built for themselves. That afternoon, I walked into my office downtown. My team, my people, greeted me with smiles. No whispers, no gossip, just warmth, respect, home. That evening, Miriam showed up at my door. She was my first real boss, the one who hired me at 17 when I had no home, no resume, and nothing but a broom in my hand. She brought sunflowers and tears. You made it out, she whispered, hugging me like she had always known I would. I had to, I said. There was no air left in there. Later that night, Ethan reached across the dinner table, took my hand, and simply said, "You did what no one else could, Mel. You gave them every chance, and when they still chose power over love, you didn't let them take you down with them." I nodded, too full to speak. Not with food, but with clarity. I had spent years thinking that justice meant punishment, but maybe justice looks more like release. Like standing barefoot on a warm balcony, heart light, hands steady, finally done performing, and no longer needing to prove I belonged, because I had already built a world where I did. There was no grand finale, no fireworks, no courtroom speeches, no triumphant headlines, just mornings, quiet, golden mornings. And for the first time in my adult life, they didn't begin with dread. No unopened voicemails, no urgent legal notices, no mental checklist of people I had to prove myself to today. I still hadn't deleted Vivian's last voicemail. I didn't know why. Maybe to remind myself of how far I'd come. "You humiliated us. You'll regret this. You'll answer for what you've done." But it wasn't the words that stayed with me. It was the catch in her voice, just a split second, where fury almost cracked into pain. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't remorse. It was just another attempt at control. And for the first time, it didn't sting, because she couldn't touch me anymore. Charlotte never called. Not a single message. Not even a fake, "Are you happy now?" I didn't expect one. But Desmond surprised me. Again. Not with apologies this time. With silence. He didn't try to fix anything. He simply stepped away. And sometimes, that's the only decent thing someone can do after enabling a lie for so long. Gregory's clinic was shut down. His license under investigation. The IRS had begun its audit. Vivian, gone dark. No press releases. No gala invites. No staged charity brunches in pastel linen. And me? I wasn't celebrating. I wasn't gloating. I was observing. Because when people fall, it's easy to cheer. It's even easier to pity. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is witness their collapse in complete stillness. Because I had already fallen, already shattered, already rebuilt. Now it was their turn. I walked into my office, my own space, built with sweat and truth and no shortcuts. My staff respected me, not because of my name, but because of my leadership. I wasn't someone's daughter. I wasn't someone's shadow. I was just Amelia. Later that evening, I sat on the balcony again, watching the city hum beneath me. And for the first time, I thought, maybe healing isn't loud. Maybe it doesn't come with violins or Instagram quotes. Maybe it feels like wearing something comfortable, not impressive. Drinking coffee that isn't rushed. Smiling because you feel like it, not because someone's watching. Because I used to believe justice had to be dramatic. That vindication had to be loud. But now I know true freedom is silent. And it settles in slowly, like sunrise. They never said sorry. And they probably never will. But I don't need it. Because I'm no longer fighting to be seen, heard, or loved by people who only ever wanted to control me. I don't need to win. Because I already have. And sometimes the deepest victory is simply no longer needing the war. If you've ever been made to feel invisible, if someone once told you that your story didn't matter unless it fit their narrative, if you've been silenced in the name of family, respect, or keeping the peace, then let me tell you something no one probably has. You don't owe anyone your silence. Not your parents, not your siblings, not your spouse, not your past. You are allowed to speak, to leave, to heal, to grow into someone they never thought you'd become. You don't need their apology to move forward. You don't need their permission to reclaim your story. And know that you don't have to wait until they finally see your worth. You already know it. So maybe this story wasn't just mine. Maybe it's yours too. And if it is, drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. Type 1 if it reached something in you. And if you're still in the thick of it, still fighting, still holding your breath, know this: you're not alone. You're not broken. And your story, it's not over. You still get to write the ending.